When you come into the world, we take on the identity of those who are more powerful than us. What we're looking for is a kind of person who is looking for meaning. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here?
So I'd like to welcome Aaron Feil from MindFix. Going to be changing that name. We're going to talk about that, which is funny. And I think it's actually very interesting, but we'll come back to that. Aaron was one of the guests on my radio show where I interview people from the business world that are entrepreneurs, that are successful. And Aaron had worked for many years for an award-winning PR company?
Web agency.
Web agency. And something happened in her life that made her start a whole new journey. And if you don't mind, I'd love for you to kind of tell your story of how this brand new journey started for you, and all of a sudden you're doing something completely different than all your schooling taught you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go for it.
Sure. So I ran an award-winning web agency for about 16 years, and everything looked really good on the outside, from the outside. We had great clients, an amazing team. We were growing every year, and seemed great. And then about 11 or 12 years into the run, I started to have this sense that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more meaningful. I wanted to do more with my life. But I didn't know what else I could possibly do. That's all I'd ever known was running this business. I did it straight out of graduate school, and I didn't know anything else. So I started, I took some courses and read some books, tried to figure out what's my purpose, what am I really good at, what's my value, what else could I bring to the world. I didn't get any answers. And then one day, out of the blue, I stepped off my bike and had this little twinge, just like that, in my ankle. Didn't hurt. It was just a little shock of electricity. I didn't think anything of it. Until the next day it hurt a bit more and a bit more. And then within 4 days, I suddenly realized I had pain. And I had pain that wasn't going away. And quickly learned that I suddenly had chronic pain, chronic mystery pain. And I started to go to doctors. And one doctor would send me to the next doctor, would send me to the next doctor. And then I'd be getting x-rays, and then I'd be getting MRIs, and then more MRIs and more scans, and then going to more specialists and, maybe see this physical therapist on the side and actually go see a rolfer and go see a chiropractor. And suddenly my life was just filled every morning till night with seeing specialists and therapists and doctors and practitioners every day, Monday through Friday. It was like a full-time job. And I was driving around the state, and I was getting nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
And it's important to know that she's a avid snowboarder and outdoor person, extreme lifestyle, kind of like to always be out there being active, and all of a sudden that all changed because this chronic pain was just eating you alive. But more than that, the doctors were just sending you down all these nowhere roads, and they were also telling you that, well, you don't want to do what that doctor says. And it's like, just how many people have gotten caught in this spiral of doctors telling you a million different things to do, and none of them are helping?
It was terrifying. It felt like Groundhog's Day, where I'd wake up and I'd go, okay, and I'd look at my calendar and I'd go, okay, I'm going to go to all these doctors, and I'd walk in every visit going, maybe this is the guy who's going to be able to help me. Maybe he'll have an answer. And then I'd, get to the end, and we're not really sure what to do with you, but, maybe try this protocol or try this therapy for a few months and come back and we'll see if it works. It escalated, and over the next year and a half, I went from doctor to doctor. I ended up in a brain surgeon's office.
From her ankle.
I was a healthy 30-something-year-old to suddenly I'm sitting by myself, surrounded with, looking around by myself in this office with people who have severe issues, going, what's this? What's going on? Is this the rest of my life? What's going to happen to me? Practically had like a panic attack in the office, not knowing what was going to happen. He didn't know what was going on with me either. He had no answers.
But you were sitting there then. It just doesn't seem like it's hopeless.
It did.
So what happened?
So my physical state had broken down, and after this Groundhog's Day of a life kept going, my mental state started to break down. And I really did become hopeless and helpless, and I started to lose faith in the possibility that I could be whole again and that I could be happy again. Because nobody seemed to be able to help me. Everybody would look at me and shrug and go, I don't know what to do. And I couldn't seem to fix myself, and nobody that I trusted could either.
So, suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I thought, I can't live like this. There's no way. There's no way. I'm not able to provide value to others. I feel empty in myself. I can't seem to find joy. Why would I want to continue with this life? Like, why?
Did you actually have those thoughts? Those why?
Yeah. Yeah.
That might have been what it took for you to actually get to the bottom, to the lowest point. Because as they say, you can't bounce up until you've hit the bottom. And when you said why, something changed, I'll bet.
I didn't get an immediate answer. The email didn't come in. Right? Like I didn't get that email with here you go. Here's the answer. I kept seeking, but this time instead of trying to find just an answer for my physical pain, I started to reach out to people to see if I could get some help with what was going on up here and in here. And I was telling you, I started to see this therapist, counselor, guide, and there was one day where she challenged me and everything switched for me. And so this path I was on suddenly took a turn. And on this day, we were sitting there, there's light streaming through these leaded glass windows. I didn't tell you this, this day in particular, I was covered in rainbows. I was sitting there and
from all the
leaded glass, yeah. And it was the sun had just my appointment was at this time in the afternoon where the sun and it was covered in rainbows. I have a photo of it. I was also bawling. I'd used a box of Kleenex, so there was dirty Kleenex all over the couch, and I'm sitting there going, "This is another one of the worst days of my life," and I'm covered in rainbows. And on this day, the woman looked across at me and said, "Erin, you're not miserable because of your pain. I understand you have pain, but you're not a 10 out of 10. It's not so bad. What's going on is you have a very dirty mental lens. The way that you are actually seeing and experiencing and perceiving the world and the events that are occurring each day, it's skewed. It's absolutely skewed. What you believe to be true is causing you to see the world in such a skewed way. If you could change that, everything in your life could change, most likely the pain as well." And that hit me like a ton of bricks.
That was the message through the window with a rock with a message tied around it that you needed to wake up, that you were killing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I said, "No, I'm having a rough time because I'm in pain." And she said, "What if you started to work on what was up here first? Because you've been trying to work on your pain for the last couple of years. How's that working out?" And I was like, it's not. She's like, "I think you should try something different." And
but here's the funny part. Get ready for this one. Because it's like, is this person going to be the one that helped Erin? You would think right at this point, yes, she is. But then
Oh, I got so excited. I kind of did this. I said, this is exciting. How do we do it? How do I change what's in here? How do I change that? Because I've read the books and I've worked with the coaches and I've gone to the, seminars and I've done the trainings and I've done all the stuff. So I know what I'm supposed to be thinking up here and I know how I'm supposed to be feeling, but it hasn't changed it here. How do we do that? Like, I'm so excited you're here to guide me. And she gave me some answer about, well, I think you're going to have to increase your visits to 3 times a week. And we're going to explore that over the upcoming years
She didn't
ahead.
really know.
And, it's going to take some love and exploration. And I'm sitting here going like, I'm not buying it.
You don't know. You really don't know.
I'm
But
not
she had
buying
one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That's the thing about life. That's what I was saying earlier. One piece of the puzzle, that energy, that person had one piece, and now you can move on and keep going, and you will continue. If you continue to seek, the answers will continue to come. But you have to ask, first of all, I think, God to show you. And that was that moment in your life where you're like, God, why am I even here? I can't be any good. And God then helped you by giving you a piece of the puzzle. God could do anything he wants. He could just go, you're fixed. But that's not what this journey is all about. We have to find it. Continue.
Yeah. So I actually left her office that day and I stood on she had a red concrete porch outside, and I made the decision, like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out by myself, and kind of like, or I'm going to die trying, because I couldn't keep going on anymore like that. So I spent the next year or so traveling around across the country. I studied with amazing people. I absorbed everything I could. And I took all of these different pieces of the puzzle, now knowing, instead of focusing just on my body, like how I searched for, how can I change what I believe to be true? All these things that I had learned and discovered since I was
Wrote
young.
like knowledge instead of understanding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, this woman had said, you deeply, fundamentally believe things that are hurting you. I had to find a way to unlearn. So she said things like, you believe that if you stop working, you're not valuable. And here you are, and you can't work right now because you're in pain. So now that you're not working, you feel like you're not a valuable human being, and your value as a human on this planet goes away. You feel that in order to be good enough, you have to be bizarrely better than everybody else around you. And now that you can't prove that you're better than others, you feel like you're no longer good enough. And she goes, you believe these things, and you can hear it when you speak. If you hold on to those things tightly as you move forward through your life, they will keep pulling you down. And obviously, putting more information on top of those things doesn't really seem to change it. I can read a book telling me not to think that way. Doesn't work. So I had to find a way to unlearn these things that were really deep inside.
I got to tell you, it's so funny. I mean, have you ever heard of unlearn before you actually kind of had to realize that that's what you had to do? All my life, my dad has been talking about we have to unlearn. All my life. And I remember thinking, my dad's crazy when I was a kid. I used to think, everybody's trying to teach me and you're trying to unlearn me. It's like, but it's so true, because the problem is we're having all this garbage downloaded into us, and so much of it gets downloaded, and so much of it is a virus that has been downloaded into them, and now they believe it, and then they start to pound it into you like a square peg in a round hole. And guess what? You're a little kid, so it just kind of gets pounded right into the top of your head, and it becomes you, and you don't have a choice. Guess what? You do have a choice. But you got to unlearn. You have to realize first that you got to unlearn. That's the first thing you got to do. And guess what? A lot of that, it just seems so daunting. It seems like such a mountain in front of you. But what you have to realize is that through God, all things are possible. And if you just learn how to get your ego out of the way and your pride and all the things that you were so proud of, graduate school, I heard. All the things you were so proud of, the plaques that are on the wall that make you who you are, supposedly, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those things really they do make you who you are. Exactly, actually. They make you who you are, which is a stuck person. You have to learn how to unlearn, in essence, and learn how to actually listen to something that is inside of your heart, that knowing. I'm going to shut up and let you continue. I love this because this is the conversation we're having. We're supposed to be talking about business on a business radio show. But guess what? Here's a business person that's an award-winning business person that's telling the world to unlearn. That sounds like my dad, I got to tell you, but which is cool. But it's like, it's not normal, Aaron. It's not normal. The normal world, the matrix, all the people that are in the normal world are so busy trying to get those degrees for the wall and all the things that make you somebody instead of just simply being who you are supposed to be according to your Creator, that will put His knowledge, His wisdom, His love, His grace into your heart when you need it, which is the journey I see that you had. You started to have these knowings. So I'll shut up.
Well, it's so interesting, and it's true. So many people run around and they experience challenges and problems, and the only thing they know to do, because oftentimes it's what they've been taught, is to try and add more on top. More information, more tools, more techniques, more tactics, more things to try, more things to remember, more things to do, different ways to be. And it's more and more and more. And then they wonder, like, why isn't this working?
Oh, I just had an interesting thing drop into my heart. So all that more, for example, you've been out working real hard. It was cold outside. You put on layers. You know, I have 2 shirts on, and I put a jacket on. And man, it's really cold. So I put a parka on and a hat on, and then I pulled a lid over because it's really cold outside. And then, man, I'm dirty. I've been working all day. I'm sweaty. I want to go take a shower. So I go in there with all those layers on, and I get in the shower, and I'm just not getting clean. Guess what? You better start peeling through those layers, huh? You got to come back and get in that shower naked, as my mom would say, or naked, as my father would say. The point is that when you are trying to get clean, you got to peel through those layers, and I bet that's where you're going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Instead of adding more and more and people going, why isn't this working? Great, good analogy with the shower. That works.
It's like a baptism.
Mm-hmm. So often, the root, there's a root. There's a reason why we're experiencing patterns of counterproductive thoughts or emotions or behaviors and things that don't serve us, things that hold us back from where it is we say we actually want to go in our lives. And we don't need more information. Like half of us have spent our lives trying to gather more. So often if we find ourselves in these cycles and these patterns and repeating the same loops, there's actually a root. There's a reason why we're doing it. And when you can go in and unlearn the reason, pull out the cause, the root cause of why you're stuck, it can actually get you unstuck quite easily and in an elegant way instead of trying to force your way through your challenges.
So, interesting, isn't it? Never heard of my dad before. Doesn't even know who Roy Masters is. Hasn't met him. He's in the hospital right now recovering from, just his life. And he's doing well. I had a couple-hour visit with him yesterday, and he was in great spirits. And he says to say hi to everybody. And but the interesting thing here is that out of this unlearning, peeling the onion, and getting to the core of who Erin really was, comes her company, MindFix. Now, I want to stop right here for a moment. MindFix. My father's first book, How Your Mind Can Keep You Well. MindFix. And I thought, I got to see who this person is, because it's very interesting. Then this morning she tells me, well, we're going to be changing the name of the company. And I went, what? I love that name. I love it. I'll buy it. But I didn't say that, but I'm going to offer. But, and she says, yeah, but we're in the business sector. We're trying to help business people to be more successful. That's what her company does. But using these same principles we're talking about, which I think is just so cool. Such a missing piece of this whole thing. But she says people don't want to admit that they need to be fixed. And the word fix is in the name. And I just got to tell you, I get it. In the business world that she is in, people don't want to admit. They don't even want that name to be seen in their emails because then they're admitting to their other employees that I need to be fixed. Get it? But guess what? Through the process, they can overcome the name because, they find themselves, okay? She has a process, systems and process. She's a business person, and she's going to help people to become successful. And she's got, what's your rate of success?
I think we're above 96% this quarter.
So she's helping business people to go back and unlearn, find the root cause of what is causing the problems. Guess what? Don't we all need that? Doesn't Beverly need that, and Marilyn and Catherine and, okay, I don't remember the names of everybody else. But you know what I'm saying? Business people, doesn't Alan need that? I told my story, and we're going to come back to, because I want you to walk through a little bit of what you guys do, and it's just sheer brilliance. I realize it's one-on-one, so it's not as easy as, just sending out a message and then everybody gets better. But that's life. It's a journey. But I had this happen to me many, many years ago. I was 32 years old. It was after we lost that baby. And I think that's where I got the stoic face. Because when my wife was there in the hospital, crying her eyes out because we had just lost our baby, and we had a little baby boy, and we know what we lost because we love our baby boy, and we just lost one. And let me tell you, I became hard as nails. I became very step back, got to be strong, got to shove down emotions, got to be the man, got to go to work tomorrow, got to deal with problems today at work while I'm dealing with what am I going to do with this dead baby. I adopted something and became very just concrete. You cannot penetrate this block of concrete. When I put up my wall, you can say whatever you want, and it just goes boink and falls to the ground. I've learned how to be concrete. But who wants to have a relationship with a piece of concrete? Okay? So this happened to me. I've experienced what she does, finding the core. And I'll tell you, I'm going to tell it as quick as I can. I was walking back from dropping off a car to get something done on. I was walking back to my business. It was a mile or so. I just wanted to walk. And I was walking along with a concrete face, just being conscious, thinking, what is life about, God? Why? Right? Why am I here? Asking that question in your life could have a profound effect. I don't know. But my father asks it at the beginning of these videos. Why am I here? In that moment in time, I walked past a doctor's office that I had heard. I didn't even know what kind of doctor he was. Could have been a brain surgeon, could have been a podiatrist, could have been a gynecologist. I don't know. I just heard that he was a good doctor, and I go, oh, there's that doctor's office. And something drew me in there. And I said, is this Dr. So-and-so's office? And they're like, yes. And I go, is the doctor here? Yes. Do you have an appointment? No. I just want to meet the doctor. They said, would you like to make an appointment? I said, no. I just like to meet the doctor. And I said, can I meet the doctor? And she said, well, let me go ask. She goes back. Doctor comes out. I said, hi, doctor. I'm Alan Masters. Just wanted to meet you. I heard you were a good doctor. He says, hi. He says, well, what seems to be your problem? I said, I don't know. He says, well, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I don't know. There's something going on in here. And he says, does it hurt? And I said, no, but there's something going on. I don't know what it is. He says, well, come on in. He takes me in. We sit down. I sit on the bed with the piece of paper on it, and he sits in the chair. And he says, so, really, what's the problem? I said, I don't know. But I knew there was something wrong. How many people knows there's something wrong with them, but doesn't know what it is? We just know there's something wrong.
And you were hoping he wasn't a gynecologist at this point, right?
When he pulled those stirrups out, I knew I was in trouble. But I gladly laid down. And anyway. But that's funny. That's why I like her, too, sense of humor. So I said, I don't know. And he says, well, do you want to take a little journey? And I said, like what? And he goes, a journey inside to see what it is. And I said, yeah. He says, okay, well, lay down. I said, don't put those stirrups up. So I laid down, and he says to me, go inside of yourself and tell me what you see. Close your eyes. Go inside. So I closed my eyes, and I said, I don't see anything. I've always had the gift to be able to just shut off my thoughts. I think it's a very rare gift, but I can just tell them to shut up, and they just do. Now, there's some that are way back in the back there that'll throw tomatoes at me and try their best. But I've been very fortunate, and I think they found the ability to find little ways around, like little wormholes, to make me think they're my original thoughts. And so for a while, I got caught there. But I was laying there. There was nothing I could see. He says, all right, well, go a little deeper. So I went a little deeper inside of myself. He says, what do you see now? I said, nothing. He goes, go deeper. And I went a little deeper inside of myself. He said, what do you see now? And I said, well, oddly, there's like a big ball like that. And my eyes were closed, and I'm like laying there. He says, well, what is it? I said, I don't know. It looks like a big ball of sinew. And if I could tell you the color, it was this kind of color, this tan, like a piece of sinew. And he says, interesting. He says, well, what's inside of it? I said, I don't know. It's just a big ball right in the middle of my gut. And he said, well, open it up, pull it open. And I said, okay. So I tore it open you've probably seen a coconut has a big husk on it. And I tore that husk open, and there was a round glass ball inside of that sinew, that husk. And I said, there's a glass ball. And he says, really? Well, what's inside the glass ball? And I looked, and I said, there's a big gray rat. And he said, a big gray rat? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, what's its face look like? And I said, I don't know. It's kind of backed up against the glass to where all I see is its hindquarters. He says, well, go around and see if you can look at the face. So I leaned that way, and the rat kind of moved that way. And I said, he says, what's its face look like? I said, I don't know. It moved its back end to where all I can see is the back of it. He said, well, look at the other side. Everybody in the audience is leaning. That's funny. The rat moved this way. And he says, what do you see? He says, I said, it moved that way. And all of a sudden, like a ton of bricks, I realized something. I sat up, and I said, I know what it is. He says, what? I said, the rat is me. I'm the rat. I'm the rat. And he says, really? I said, thank you, doctor. Thank you. And he goes, I didn't do anything. And I said, no, you did. You helped me to see that rat inside of me. And I stood up and I shook his hand. I've never seen him again. I didn't pay him anything. He just stood there like, I don't know what that was. But I tell you the rest of the story. The rest of the story is that when I was 8 years old, I think I was 7, 1967. My mom and dad got into a big argument one day about junk food. And this is long before people really knew, 1967, how bad sugar and junk food and all that garbage is for us. But my dad was always, way ahead of his time. And he says, no more cookies, no more cakes, no more. I remember my mom had made a big, giant chocolate cake, and he was going to throw it out the window. And I think he did end up throwing it in the trash because they were having this argument about that my mom just gives us all this junk food, and she was using it to get us to do things. 4 bullheaded boys and a bullheaded girl. 5 kids. He's at work, she's away. Food. Of course, what did the downfall of man started with food? But she was using food to get us to do things. And, I'll make some cookies if you do this, and don't fight. And if you don't fight, I'll make a cake or whatever it is. I vaguely remember that it was such a huge thing in our family that this argument was like devastating to us kids as 7, 9, 11, 13. Because it's like, what kid doesn't like cookies and cakes and things like that, and chips? And so right about the time when it was almost kind of like, all right, I've gotten used to not having all that stuff, I came home from school one day and I said to my mom, Mom, don't you have any cookies or candies or cupcakes or something? I want a cupcake, a cookie, anything. My mom says, well, I do have some in the linen closet. Underneath the linens, there's a box of cookies. And you can have a couple, but your dad's going to be home in a little bit, so you better hurry up. And don't say anything to your dad. Boom. Enter the rat. Because I, as a little 7-year-old boy, went, oh, so if he doesn't find out, then I can do whatever I want. It's kind of like Eve probably thought, well, if God says not to eat this, and I eat it, and nothing happens. The devil told me nothing would happen, just to eat the apple and watch. But what happens is the disobedience. I was tempted to disobey my father. And because of that, I embraced the rat. Because what is a rat? Sneaky. Gets into things and mischief and is very sneaky. I embraced the rat into myself. And then I harbored the rat. I protected the rat. And I built a sinew around it to protect the glass ball that the rat was living inside of me. Didn't even know it. It's like a little innocent kid. Embraced the rat, and the rat grew inside of me for 30, 25 more years. And the day that he released me to show me this rat, and I saw it, and I knew, I found the origin of where the rat got into me, where I embraced the rat. And at that moment, and I'm going to let you finish now, I was free from the rat. But what the rat did for me in those 32 years of my life was weave a wicked web of deception and rat-like things that all fell apart, crash, bang, fire, brimstone, because guess what? I couldn't live that way any longer. And everything started falling apart in my life, and down to my knees I went in the next 2 or 3 years. Went from being a millionaire at 32 to nothing. I moved in with my dad with 3 kids. With 2 kids, and I was selling a building at the last minute to try and pay off some debts and things, and my wife calls me and says, the baby's ready. I'm going to have a baby. It's, her water broke. She was pregnant, living at my dad's house. I got there late because I needed to sign paper. I delivered the baby on my dad's floor in a guest bedroom. I delivered the baby. Almost killed my wife because she could have died. Something could have happened because I was so busy trying to shed all my old life and just anything. And the other kids took 24 and 36 hours. She'll wait. That baby ain't coming. Let's get the paperwork. Do it. Finish. Hurry up. Still selfish, but like a whirling dervish, spinning, trying to get the hell away from my old life that was the wicked web that I had spun, which is just us living our lives. We do so many stupid things. But when I knew what I knew, I could start living again. But guess what? Just because you become aware doesn't mean you don't have to deal with your children that you've screwed up, your business that you screwed up, your ex-wife or 2 or 3, or ex-husband or 2 or 3, whatever it is. You still have to deal with that. And you have to continue living. It's like my dad says. He says, I don't worship. I don't do this, that. I just live it. You've got to live it. You have to outlive the thing that you fed inside of you, the rat. For me, it was the rat. I think I was born in the year of the rat, too, which is funny. But anyway, point is, I had to outlive the rat. Now, the rat's gone. The rat's dead. I didn't have to go fight with the rat. I had to fight with what I did while the rat was in me. Well, you could call it a rat. You can call whatever you want while the evil was in me. And I was feeding the evil through believing the lie, believing and embracing the mistake that I made, that my mother made. And it was just a stupid little mistake. Everything that is wrong with all of us are just stupid little mistakes that we feed and feed and feed and feed, and it grows and grows and grows. And then guess what? It has a life of its own, that parallel universe. The problem is we're feeding and building in the parallel universe, and that's going to take us to the wrong place. So then we have to let it all die and then start creating a new world, a new life where the old one died. Hopefully this feeds into how you're able to release people like I was released with this stuff you're doing for business people.
Absolutely. It's such a beautiful parallel, because what you discovered, you went back to that story, right, with your mom. That was the seed that was planted. That was the root. What does a child conclude in an experience like that? When we're children, from the age of when we're born to about the age of 7 or so, we are walking around with our brains in a theta state. And theta is the state of brain state that people get into when they're hypnotized. So it's pure, raw imagination, and it's almost like we are walking around with a tape recorder and a microphone. And we're these sponges, and we're absorbing. We're absorbing what our parents are modeling, what they're saying to us, what they tell us that we are. Whether it's, maybe they're a little angry and they had a rough day and they tell us something, we absorb it. We're pulling it all in. And what happens is it turns into these loops, these tapes, these records that play in our subconscious for the rest of our lives. Around the age of 7, 8-ish, that stuff gets sealed in. And it becomes the background, kind of what powers us as we go throughout our day. Then we have our conscious mind and our conscious desires and our intellectual mind, and we go and we think we're making decisions from our analytical reasoning skills and our logic, and we have our willpower and our conscious desires, and we're making decisions as we go throughout our day. But as soon as we're thinking about the future, we're thinking about the past, and our conscious mind takes its hands off the steering wheel, it's our subconscious and all the programs and the rules and the things we picked up when we were younger that, oh, I got it from here, I'll take it over. So the things about, the way to get what I want is to be sneaky. The way that I can get what I want is to make sure that whatever conclusions you kind of drew, that powers us as we go throughout our days. And we don't necessarily realize it, but those stories are the roots that actually determine why we feel the way we do, and why we act the way we do, and why we think what we think in our adult lives. So you mentioned, I don't cry. You know me, I don't cry. It's not just a random characteristic of you. You mentioned, you alluded to it. You then said, well, actually, if you go back to the root, it's like, I was raised by a father who said, that's a weakness, right?
Right.
So it's actually quite logical and makes so much sense. You're raised by the man upon whom your survival depends, tells you that crying is a weakness. that you don't want to cry. So a child's going to conclude, you don't cry. It's wrong to cry. And then that gets kind of locked in here. It's a program that runs in the background, and then you go off, you become an adult, and shocker, you're a man who doesn't cry. It's hyper logical, and it makes almost so much sense, like almost too much sense. It's almost too simple. It's so beautiful and elegant in its simplicity. So people will say things like, you know what? I'm in sales. I'm trying to do more sales and do business development, and I get on the phone, and I've taken the training, and I just can't bring up money. I get to that part of the process, and I'm supposed to talk about budget, and I'm supposed to talk about let's talk some numbers, and I just
Hit a wall. Yeah.
or I start
Right.
I start to sweat, and I can't do it. It makes no sense, and I'm sitting here going, watch this. It's going to make too much sense. It's going to be completely obvious. And if you ask them, let's go back, let's talk about what was money like when you were growing up? How was money discussed in your household? What were the money conversations like? Oh, well, you don't talk about money in my household. It's like, well, again, shocker. You were raised in a household where it was wrong to talk about money. You absorb that like a sponge. It gets locked in. It becomes a program that runs on the loop in the background.
So she's found the triggers. It's like, and she's helping these business people by taking them back to what triggered them to be who they are today as adults, back to when they were children. And when they can release that, what happens?
Everything that they want happens. So people are stuck. When they get stuck, maybe they can't talk about money. Maybe they get triggered every time one of their team members gives them criticism. Maybe they find themselves wasting 20 hours a week because everything has to be perfect. So when you find out what the root is, and you can go back and you can pull it out, and that block goes away, what happens is flow and momentum and ease and grace. It's the lack of resistance is what happens. And when there's not resistance, when you don't have invisible balls and chains pulling you back, life just feels easier. There's a sense of flow and ease. So the way I like to describe it is, there's the story of Sisyphus, who used to push the boulder up the hill every day. And at the end of the day, the boulder would roll all the way back down to the bottom. And so many people are pushing these boulders up the hill in their lives. And what they do is they try to collect more information, or they go to more specialists, and they try to increase their skills, and they try to get stronger. So it's easier to push the boulder every day, and it feels a little easier. And I'm sitting here going, why don't we just get rid of the boulder? Let's just get rid of the boulder so that you can move forward with more ease. It doesn't have to be hard.
So evidently, they call that being a sissy face. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I've never heard that story. Sisyphus?
Mm-hmm. Sisyphus.
Isn't that funny? Well, I don't want to be a sissy face.
Mm-mm.
I think this is just absolutely brilliant. And then so we come back to our egos are in the way. Our egos are in the way of change. So much so that she's having to change the name of her company from MindFix to she's working on a name. Not easy. I loved MindFix, see, because all my life my dad has been endeavoring to help people that, dare I say, need to be fixed or need help. So to me, I went, yes, how your mind can keep you well. MindFix. And she's like, people don't want the word fix in that. Yet I believe that the people that are watching this and that will watch this are looking for some sort of fix. And I think that even hearing that, even hearing my story of when I saw where it entered, because I could see there was a rat in there, but if I don't know where it came from or how it got in, then another one will just take its place. So I needed to go all the way back to where it entered, where I embraced it. And God gave me the ability to be able to see that, because that on my own I can do nothing. And God showed me that moment in time, and I hadn't thought of until, 25 years later, when my mom said, there's some cookies in there, just don't let your dad know. And I was like, oh, what he doesn't know, I won't get in trouble. Sneaky. We all have these things inside of us, whether they're somebody telling you you're stupid. Get away from me, you're stupid. Don't ask stupid questions. Well, I must be stupid. Instead of, and a lot of the times it's because the parent doesn't know the answer. I don't know the answer. And they're not honest enough to say, you know what, I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's go get an encyclopedia. I remember those. You probably don't, but yeah.
I do.
41, just if you're wondering.
Thanks. Thanks.
Happy birthday. Just had a birthday. But I think, it's funny because today you just Google. I mean, literally, you don't even have to do anything. Your phone's sitting on the table and you say, hey, Siri, what's sissy face or Sisyphus? I thought it was a venereal disease for a minute, but it's not. That's funny. You know it.
Oh, yeah. It is.
The point is that out in this world, there are so many brilliant people that are finding the simplicity of returning to our origins and asking why. Sometimes we have to be all the way at the bottom. And before you bounce up, right at that bottom point when you ask why. And the next thought may be suicide. You may be, with that thought of suicide, you may be right at the point where you need to start your new life because the old one does need to die, but not through this. It's through killing the ego and letting it die and being willing to just say, I don't know, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to start looking under every rock. Am I right? Mm-hmm. And so I said to Erin, I said, well, my dad has a meditation exercise. So I think together with her tools for business people and the tools that my father's created with the meditation exercise, I said, so how do you maintain? What's the maintenance for once you unlock these people? What's the maintenance? And so these are the conversations we're having. Well, there's got to be some sort of a maintenance to stay in the moment, to stay in that place of gratitude and humility, because I believe the moment that person is released from that rat, just the understanding and the acknowledgement of, I've been feeding the wrong side of me. I've been feeding the rat. The two wolves are fighting, and the little Indian boy says to his chief father, which one wins, grandfather? Grandfather says, the one you feed. I was feeding the wrong thing. I had to starve it out and nourish Alan this time instead of Alan's rat or the devil's rat dwelling within inside of me, the alien inside of me. So I said, man, this meditation exercise is a beginning. It's a constant reaffirmation of today I begin a day free from the rat. And I want to make sure I'm thankful to God and to the people around me. And I want to show that appreciation because when you live in gratitude, everything changes. Everything changes. And so I believe that is at the end of the day what we're supposed to do is to become aware of our second nature, our other nature, and live in gratitude and give appreciation to your Father in heaven for giving you that insight and understanding. But so what's next for Erin?
What's next? At this point,
she's a business coach. You can get a hold of her if you need business coaching with a little of this, which I think is great.
We're continuing to improve just our processes and our team. I'm really excited about being able to help. Like right now, we can only help so many people in a year, though. We're a team of 7, and we work with brilliant business people, and we're changing their lives. Everything changes for them, complete transformations.
Ripple effect.
Yes, and then it impacts their teams, it impacts their families, it impacts their friends, and it's beautiful to see. I'm just excited about the possibility and trying to come up with a way where we can impact more than just a small, a few hundred people each year. And so that's what's on the horizon. I'm not sure how, but that's what's on the horizon.
So, and I'll tell you this, to me, this person is inspiring because we have to do business. By the sweat off your brow shall you earn your bread. but we need these principles. And so many people are afraid to look to religion or spiritual nature. But when you're in pain and you know and you admit I need help, and you maybe go look for a business coach and you find somebody like this, that is a ripple effect that will change this world. She is a ripple effect. And so I said, listen, maybe we work together. Maybe we come up with some curriculum. Maybe you come and speak again at one of our symposiums, our seminars that we want to have at Tall Timber Ranch. I have met a dozen people interesting in this way in the business world that are seeking more out of life than just money and fame and the worldly things. So I wanted to introduce Erin to you as an example of a person that's never met my father, never heard of my father's teachings, because they aren't really my father's teachings anyway. They're given from the Father in heaven. And they get placed in hearts all over the world that can do good thing and have a ripple effect. So I want to work with Erin and see if I can't learn some of your tools to help unlock people that are locked up earlier before they need an exorcism where it's completely consumed them. And I believe that's what can happen with some of the things that you've told me about, and we'll continue that. We'll continue that. And so I introduced you to Erin File, MindFix, and I'm Alan Masters. This is the foundation of human understanding. We want to understand more about life, and I think that as a community and a tribe, you might say, we can bring in new people and bring in some younger people and help people sooner in their life to wake up to their true self. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Erin.